right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Free. I'm Ryan. I'm the pastor and executive director here, and this is Noelle. She's our community director here. Welcome to all of you on this fine Saturday evening. To those of you joining us online, we're glad you're here. We're glad you're part of this community. To give you all the reminder, this is a community for addicts, loved ones of addicts, and spiritual refugees, and what we do here is break the silence of addiction. We create space for healing, recovery, and spiritual connection. There's always one thing we don't do. Y'all can shout it out on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. We don't do shame. Noelle, tell us some things coming up.
Yeah, but we do welcome bags here. So if tonight's your first night here, welcome. We are so grateful to have you here. Get with a home team member or someone on staff here, and we will get you hooked up with a welcome bag. And inside it has a little bit about what we do here at Free Recovery Community. There is some fresh roasted wagon coffee in this bag and just some other free swag items. So grab yourself a welcome bag and just know that we are so grateful to have you here with us tonight. Next up, if you're looking for a way to get more plugged in here at Free and be a part of the community on a deeper level, joining the home team is a great way to do so. You can get with a home team member again or a staff member. They are truly what makes this operation run on Saturday nights, helps organize events, welcoming you when you come through the door. So it's a great thing to be a part of. Get with one of us and we'll get you all hooked up with the correct people. Next up, you guys know that we've been in this Enneagram series for the past 2 weeks. And then
you forgot the meeting.
Oh, the GIST meeting.
The new meeting.
Dang it, Adam messed up. All right, well.
I only knew it because I saw it on the screen.
On August 30th, we are kicking off a brand new NA meeting, which stands for Narcotics Anonymous. So it'll be from 7 to 8, so every Friday starting August 30th in the nursery right down the hall here. And this meeting is called GIST. So ask me what GIST stands for.
What does GIST stand for?
Get your shit together.
All right, so they're going to be doing that in this meeting.
Yep, and I hope with some of God's help because,
We need God's help in this, yes.
That's right. So that kicks off August 30th. It's just going to be a great group of people that have started this meeting. So if you're looking for a new NA meeting, come visit us 7 to 8 on Friday starting August 30th. Now for Enneagram.
Now the Enneagram. Tell us about it.
So the last couple weeks we have been in our Enneagram series, and then we have our final week this coming week. But on August 29th, it's the last Thursday of the month, we're having an Enneagram panel discussion. So no registration, no cost to attend this. If you are someone who's like, what the heck is this Enneagram stuff you guys are talking about? This is for you to come to. So I know Ryan's going to be on the panel. I'm going to be on the panel. Tammy, and then our Enneagram certified instructors will be running the panel for us, just diving deeper into the types of Enneagram and the intricacies that it plays in our recovery and why it's important to know why we do the things that we do.
Yeah, very important. It's been good stuff so far.
All right, well, that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Noelle. Thank you for being with us. All right, listen, y'all, the way we get started on a Saturday night, if you're new with us, if it's your first time here, well, we start with celebrations. We start with the good. We lift up the good. Maybe you're celebrating a sobriety anniversary or a birthday or whatever the new thing is happening in your life, in your recovery. It's all welcome to be celebrated here. Something profound happens when we celebrate together. In community, God joins with us in the celebrations. By the way, if you're online tonight, drop your celebrations in the YouTube comments or the Facebook comments. We want to celebrate with you there. If you're in person tonight, well, and you've got a celebration, we take 3 minutes for this. Just raise up your hand, and who's got the mics? Okay, we're going to get mics to y'all on each side. Just raise them up, and we'll take 3 minutes. This time is yours. Oh, wait, is that mic on? There you go.
Check 1, 2. Okay. My name's Brandon. I'm alcoholic. So, they always tell you in recovery, don't date the girls at the AA meetings.
Yeah, we've heard this.
Well,
tell us what happened, man.
I dated one of those girls. She was chairing a meeting. I thought she was outstanding. And so, 2 years later, we just got married. And so, happy marriage.
Congratulations. So what you're saying is it ended well. Celebration. All right. Beautiful.
Hi, I'm Jade. I just celebrated 3 years on the 28th of July.
All right, 3 years, Jane. Way to go. Congratulations.
Hi, I'm Ray. I just celebrated 7 years today.
7 years, Ray. Way to go, dude.
I'm Sandra, and I celebrated 3 years on August 9th.
3 years. All right, all those 3 years.
My name is Hawken. I'm an alcoholic, and I've got 30 days sober.
30 days, Jonathan. Way to go, dude. Congratulations.
My name is Yvette, and I want to celebrate my dad, who had an emergency surgery on Tuesday morning to remove a pulmonary embolism. And he's alive and doing well and out of the hospital, and it's only really by the grace of God.
All right, way to go, Yvette's dad. We'll celebrate it. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Monty, and on Tuesday the 13th, I hit 6 years.
6 years, Monty. Way to go, dude. Eric, right here in the second row.
I'm Kai, and I'm celebrating 519 days free of fentanyl.
519 days fentanyl free. Way to go, Kai. Anyone else? There we got someone on the couch in the back.
My name is Joshua, and on Tuesday I will have 1 year free of fentanyl, methamphetamine, alcohol, any mind-altering substance. So it'll be 1 year.
Way to go, dude. That's a big deal. Keep on trucking. All right.
Okay, my name's Jessica, and I also just celebrated 3 years on August 2nd.
August 2nd. Did y'all call each other and say, everyone who has 3 years come to free tonight? That's the third 3 in a row. Now someone just needs to make it up and say they have 3 years to fit in.
Hello, my name's Josiah, and I got 24 hours sober.
24 hours, dude. Glad you're here. Yeah, we're out of time, but let's take that one in the back. Now it's going to be a good one. I feel it.
Last but not least, my name's Elizabeth, and I'm celebrating the birth of my first grandchild.
Oh, my word.
Come on! That's a big deal.
Way to go, Grandma.
That's right.
It's a big deal. Congratulations. All right. Tammy Canada is joining me up here to celebrate with our online people.
I have
You
one
want to
too.
You do?
Yeah.
What?
So, well, tonight's special because Karie is speaking, and
Karie Allison, third row.
Karie's been with us since the beginning. And there's people that I see tonight that have been with us since the beginning, and I'm sitting listening, and it's just, Noel has reminded us, don't forget where you come from, remember the journey. And I'm watching you up here, and I'm just like, dang, here we are, 6 years later, doing the dang thing with people we love so much. And I don't know, it's just a moment.
Did you see Banana
I see
Jim?
him. I was pointing at him. I love you, Jim. Yes. But just a lot of
It is.
gratitude.
That's a good celebration. I'm going to clap for that. Yeah. Good stuff. All right, let's join our online people. You want to go first?
Go ahead.
Oh, you want me to go first? No,
You're standing
Okay,
over
I'll
there,
go
so
first.
go ahead.
All right, Mark says, what up, Mark? My celebration is being back in the saddle again, being able to hire people to work in festivals, concerts, and special events. God is good when you don't believe it's going to happen. Hang in there. God will be on time. Mark,
Good
we're
stuff.
celebrating that with you, buddy. Glad you're joining us tonight.
Aw, there's
This
Miss
is an OG,
Tawny.
too. We got an OG here.
I know. I got promoted at my job as lead security for saving an overdose last weekend.
Way
Full
to
circle,
go,
Tawny.
Tawny.
I love that.
Congratulations. Glad you're here, Tawny. All right, Recovery Stop Coffee Shop says,
What's up, Talisha?
Talisha, yes. We had our first recovery event we hosted. It was an amazing experience with community, a melting pot of different spiritual paths and recovery paths with our local car community.
Awesome.
Way to go, Recovery Stop Coffee Shop.
So good. Kelly says, my celebration is that my sweet little sister-in-law is attending free with me tonight.
All right. We're glad to have the sister-in-law here. Okay.
That's it.
We'll stop there. Thank you, Tammy, for being up here. All right, y'all. We are in the closing week of this series. Let me say a brief word about what's going to happen in the coming weeks. I'll say more about it next week. But So the next 2 weeks we have 2 one-offs, not part of a series. That's okay. We could do that here. Next week I want to explore with you, what does it look like? Because you know things can get a bit heated out there with politics. Yeah. What does it look like to hold your convictions, but also hold some emotional intelligence? Like, how do we be a community together and be one, especially in a community that has so many different perspectives and views and candidates? Y'all, how do we hold it all together? Why are we here? Okay, so that's next week. Then Noelle's going to, the following week, explore some anxiety issues. And then we're going to step into a September series tackling some tough issues in recovery, some controversial issues in recovery. And I'll tell you more about it next week. And Karie's got some very exciting things to share with us next week. Yeah, the video? Yeah, get ready for a video next week. It's going to be all sorts of fun. Okay, y'all, this is week 6 of Great Events, the final week.
In the hearts of those seeking sobriety, a higher power was at work. Guided by faith, they found the fellowship they craved. With each step, their bond with Him grew stronger, and great events began to unfold for them and others. Embrace sobriety and witness the great events that await you.
So Jesus stood among a bunch of religious leaders who by outward appearance they had it all together, but inward they were a hot mess. They were bent on pride, bent on judging, and Jesus looks at them square in the eye and says, "The truth will set you free." And I have to imagine they were thinking to themselves, why is he saying this to us? We're like religious leaders. Why is he saying the truth will set us free? Are we not free? Y'all, I have to tell you, in my life and in my recovery, my greatest event, because this is week 6, I had to think of what's my greatest event in recovery. My greatest event is not a singular event, but it's plural. It's all the moments I came to the realization that I am free. And I believe that it's true. The truth will set you free, but first it makes you a bit miserable, doesn't it? Truth will set you free, but first it makes you miserable. Now, if you've worked any sort of program of recovery, whatever program that may be, you know that at some point in your journey, you had to get honest, didn't you? You had to get honest with yourself. You had to get honest with your past. You had to get honest with all the things that kept you in bondage, all the things that kept you from being free. And in 12-step recovery, by the way, I realize not everyone here is a part of 12-step recovery, totally okay. But in 12-step recovery, our first real battle with honesty often comes in step 4. Do you know, I've shared with you all the story. My sponsor, right after he said this to me, what he said to me was, "Ryan, you're spiritually disconnected." That was really scary for me at the time. At the time, it was very confusing. At the time, it was very offensive. What he was saying to me was essentially, "Ryan, I don't care that you're a pastor. I don't care that you've been to seminary. I don't care that you've read the books and written the papers. I don't care about that. You're spiritually disconnected." And I'm all offended. Like, how could that be? And he says to me, I had to have him break it down really simple terms. And he says, "Ryan, if you're waking up on the daily and you're hating yourself, well, that's not exactly spiritual connection. Ryan, if you're waking up daily and you're reaching for a drink to soothe what's going on in here, well, that's not exactly a spiritual connection." Soon after he told me that, he said, "Now we're going to do a 4th step. If you're a bit fuzzy on what a 4th step is when we take searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves, on our lives. We look at the things we've done. We go in here and we stay there for just a little bit, and we see the things we've done." By the way, is it any wonder how many people at this part of the journey, people who swore they were never going to drink again, I'm never going to use again, I'm better now, they get to this point in the journey and they're like, no, man, look, I just can't do that. I am not going in there. You don't understand. That place is too dark. It's too scary. I'm scared of what I'm going to find in there. I'm not doing that. And what happens? So many of them go back to the drink. So many of them go back to using again. You probably know many stories like this. And y'all, I get it. I mean, we can understand this, right? Because who wants to go in there? I mean, willingly, who wants to go in and step into that darkness? Who wants to come face to face with all the ways you used and manipulated people to get what you wanted out of the deal? I mean, who wants to come face to face with all the things you did to people that you love the most, things you swore you would never do? All the things you said to people you loved the most, things you swore you would never say. And man, all the secrets and the lies that we held on to. Do you know when I was going through the ordination process, several years to be ordained as a pastor, and I was in the process, and something with my past came up. A DUI showed up on my record. Yeah, I did it. And I get interviewed from the interview team about this DUI on my record. And I already had the lies and secrets figured out what I was going to say to them. You know what I told them? They said, tell me about this DUI. You were 21 years old. I said, exactly. I was 21 years old. It was a total one-off. I never got behind the wheel of a car intoxicated. That was the first time it ever happened. I would never do this because my brother died of this. He was a drunk driver. I wouldn't do that. And it never happened again. That was the only time I ever did it. And it was finals week, so I was just blowing off steam. And y'all know how it is. My ride fell through, and so I had to get in my truck. Man, the lies and the secrets, and many of them bought it. The things I hope they would never truly see me and see what I was truly battling. Man, the things we did that we never wanted anyone to find out about. I mean, who wants to go in there? You mean I have to go in and come face to face admit that there were times in active addiction where I left my baby girl in the crib at home alone, would wait for her to fall asleep so I could leave the house to go drink the way I wanted to drink and hope no one would ever find out about that? How about the dishonesty, the selfishness, the self-centeredness? Do you know how much fear I put into my wife, Tammy? Tremendous amount of fear. And that's not even the bad part. I mean, that's bad enough in itself. But do you know what was so hard to admit was that this actually had no real effect on me? I didn't care, if I'm honest. When she was 6 months pregnant with our second child, our baby girl, Shiloh, she sat down with me in the living room and had one of those eyeball-to-eyeball conversations. And she said, Ryan, and she said it with tears in her eyes, I'm terrified that you are not going to be sober enough if I go into labor to drive me to the hospital, much less be present for her birth. And I remember thinking to myself, I need to act like this bothers me right now. I need to act affected by this, but also thinking, what does this have to do with me? I mean, what does it have to do with me? Yes, we might. I'll do it for you. I'll call you an Uber, and that day was a taxi. This was several years ago. I'll call you a taxi. But you know at a certain hour I'm going to be intoxicated, and of course I'm not going to be able to drive you. I'm not going to get another DUI. What does this have to do with me? And of course you can't call a friend and have them take you because then the secret is out, and that's going to cause more shame. And you do know how important it is to keep our secret, right? Thank you, God, I got sober when she was 9 months pregnant with that baby girl, Shiloh, and I was fully present for the birth. I recall those stories with you to remember that shame had me totally shackled. Maybe you have been there. I didn't want to face those things in here. I didn't want to deal with them. And let me just say this, if you've had an experience like me, if you were raised in any sort of strict religious culture or strict religious community, you going in there, it's going to be extra hard. If you have religious baggage, it's going to be a bit more difficult for you to go in. Why? Because we're already so tired of judging ourselves. We had a culture that taught us how to point the fingers at others and ourselves, and we are so tired of feeling like a failure. We are so tired of the internal voices that tell us how we're never going to measure up. We're never going to be good enough for God. God's never going to want you. At least God's never going to want the real you, so you might as well put on a mask. And now, Mr. Sponsor, you're telling me I've got to go in there? I've got to go in here, explore the dark crevices, the place I was hoping to forget about. I've got to go in. And now I know enough to tell y'all, yeah, this is the process of you forgiving you so that you can be free. The truth will set you free, but it'll first make you miserable. Is anyone here holding on to things that they've done? And that tape, it just keeps replaying. Man, why'd I do that? Why'd I do that? I swore I would never do that. Why'd I say that? Man, I swore I would never say that. I hate me for those things, and I know that God hates me for those things too. Why'd I do it? And now these things, they have you shackled and chains of shame, and it's shackled you so much you can't even imagine a way to move forward in your life. And it's why I've titled this one, Own It, Forgive It, You Are Free. And in my experience, y'all, in my experience, if you are not absolutely grounded in the unconditional love and grace of the divine, you'll never truly be able to forgive yourself. That at some point, you have to come to believe. And I think it's probably a step of faith that you have to take. You have to, at some point, take a step of faith that if I'm going to go in here, if I'm going to step into that darkness, there's something else waiting on the other side. And it's not condemnation, it's not judgment, it's not punishment or retribution, but it's grace and mercy. If I'm willing to go in, those things are going to meet me on the other side. Let's talk about freedom for just a moment. Because you do know freedom is never found in refusal and denial. We try it, but it's never found there. Freedom is always found in humility and honesty. One of my favorite parables, you know Jesus, he was always talking in parables. What's a parable? It's a short story. Jesus would talk in these short stories, usually to the religious leaders of the day, and he would tell these stories to turn the conventional wisdom upside down, turn the conventional thinking of the day upside down, and there would always be a surprise. And Jesus would hope that the hearers were able to see themselves and God in the world in brand new and fresh ways. He tells this story in Luke's gospel, a parable about two guys going in. Here's what he says. Check it out. Two people went up to the temple to pray. One was a Pharisee, religious leader, and the other was a despised tax collector. The Pharisee stood and prayed about himself with these words. God, I thank you that I'm not like everyone else. Crooks, evildoers, adulterers, alcoholics, addicts, loved ones of addicts, or even like this tax collector. I fast twice a week. I give a tenth of everything I receive. But the tax collector stood at a distance. He wouldn't even lift his eyes to look toward heaven. Rather, he struck his chest and said, God, show mercy to me, a sinner. And Jesus said, I tell you, this person went down to his home. Hold on to that. This person went down to his home justified rather than the Pharisee. Fascinating little story, isn't it? Both went in. And what's the great surprise here? A tax collector was in the temple. Now, in first century Jewish world, tax collector, these were considered rogues and thieves. If you were in there, you would have immediately looked at him and said, what's he doing here? This dude don't belong here. Why is he in the temple? The other who went in was the Pharisee, the religious leader. Again, in first century Jewish culture, the Pharisee would have been a good religious leader, knew how to follow the rules, knew how to play the judge. Both went in. And the tax collector, who no one would have expected, he goes in, but he doesn't deny and refuse and blame others for his wrongdoings. He goes in and he owns it. And then he does what? He goes home, and the text says something very interesting. The text says he goes home completely justified. That's an interesting word, isn't it? What does justified mean? So I got curious this week, and I went to the Greek, because you know the New Testament's written in Greek. Justified is this word dikaio. Say it with me, dikaio. It means acquitted in a legal sense or freed. He went home free. The Pharisee, who everyone would have expected to be the one to go home free, he's still in there in chains. He's still in there in shame. Why? Because he doesn't own his stuff. He instead leans into his pride and arrogance. He doesn't own anything. And y'all, I can have compassion for him because I get it. Maybe he was so burned out, so tired of a religious system that had him judging himself. He just couldn't go there. He had to keep on the mask. It's the only thing he knew to do. And my brothers and sisters, don't let an old system prevent you from going in. Get honest and own your stuff. You see, if you really want to be free, you are going to have to own it and forgive it. Because, see, the worst thing you can do is reject the invitation to go in here and never see your stuff, never own it. The second worst thing you can do is accept the invitation to go in here and you own it all, but you don't really forgive it. And you say, well, what's that look like? Well, maybe some of you have been there. Maybe some of you have done this. You're the one that says, yeah, I did these things in my past. Here's all the things I've done. But you go on living in shame. You go on busy to tell others and yourself, I'm just a piece of trash. I'm just a throwaway. I'm just damaged goods. That's who I am. Y'all, the truth is we could spend hours talking about the importance of you forgiving others. And believe me, I believe it's a must. In your recovery, you must forgive others if you truly want to be free. And that has nothing to do with them, but everything to do with you. And we could talk for hours about it. But in my experience and in my observation, many times the hardest one to forgive is you. Sometimes the hardest things to forgive are not the things that others did, but it's the things you did. And if you want to be free, you will have to forgive you and your past. And you said, but what's this look like? What's it look like to do that? Did you know in the New Testament, the word forgiveness is mentioned 147 times? Something tells me Jesus and those early followers, they cared a great deal about the theme of forgiveness. It was always this word when they used forgiveness. It's this Greek word, because New Testament written in Greek. It's the word aphiemi. Say it with me, aphiemi. Aphiemi means to send away. The way Jesus prays forgiveness was always send the past away. Send away the things of the past. Because he knew that not forgiving will always be the thing that keeps you from living fully in the present. Wow. Like, think about it. Do y'all know, if you're in recovery, you know this prayer probably, or if you're a church person, you know the Lord's Prayer. Yes, you know this prayer. It's found in Matthew's gospel and Luke's gospel. It's slightly different, but there's a line in the Lord's Prayer. Some of you will be familiar with it. Forgive us. Jesus says, forgive us our trespasses, or in Matthew's gospel, our debts. Forgive us our trespasses or debts as we forgive those who trespass against us, or as we forgive our debtors. What's Jesus saying? Aphiemi. Send those things, send those debts away. Don't let these things hold me in bondage. This prayer is about you being set free from the past so you could live fully into the present. And why is that important? Because how many times do we get stuck in the past? Wounds that are a year old, or wounds that are 5 years old, or 25 years old. And you see, not forgiving will always be one of the biggest obstacles between you and being free. And when you don't forgive, you're holding on to all that shame, and you're choosing to live in the past. And forgiveness is always about you being free right here, right now. And you might ask yourself, but how do I do that? Man, you don't understand some of the things I've done. How do I forgive myself? Maybe the 4 R's of you forgiving you will be helpful. Here's the first R, responsibility. You are going to take responsibility. Accept what has happened and show yourself some kindness along the way. What's this mean? You're not denying that you did these things or said these things. You're going to go in there. You're going to own it. But listen, you might have to talk to your past self, the older you, that older version, and you might have to get eyeball to eyeball with that older you and say, listen, dude, it's okay. Man, you were scared. You were absolutely terrified. You didn't know what you were going to do. You were working with only the tools that you had, and it's all okay, but we are going to go in a different direction now. It's okay, dude, but we're going somewhere else. And let me say this. There are some things for some of you in your past that you have absolutely no business owning. If you experienced any sort of abuse as a child, that is not yours to own. You don't own it. You don't take responsibility because it wasn't your fault. How you live now is totally up to you. What happened then, that wasn't your fault. If you've been in an abusive relationship, you don't own that abuse. It wasn't your fault. You didn't deserve it. You're worth more than that. You don't own that. If you are in an abusive relationship now, to say it more pointedly, if he's hitting you, you should get out. Yes. And you should get out now. The second R in you forgiving you is remorse. Remorse. Use the guilt as a gateway for positive behavior change. Remorse, guilt is not a bad thing. It's not the same as shame. That's when you are remorse, when you feel it, you're going to feel the feelings. You're going to see the harm you caused to other people, and you're actually going to have, this time, an appropriate emotional response, which is guilt. Yes, it's okay to feel a little bad. You're not going to stay there forever because that'll lead to shame. And you've probably heard the old adage, right? What's guilt say? Guilt says that thing I did was bad. What's shame say? Shame says who I am is bad. You don't want to go to shame, not the same as guilt. You want to let guilt help you make better decisions so that you can live differently. Right. Number 3, the third R. Yeah, you're going to make amends to yourself. We have to. We have to if we want to be free. That's right. You're going to go in there. You're going to face those dark crevices that you've been trying to ignore. You're going to experience some humility. But here's the thing, y'all. We don't stay in there forever. You know what I mean by this? I love the big book line that says, we don't engage in morbid reflection of the past. Why? Because it leads to shame. And you, my brothers and sisters, are going home, returning home to the true self, but this time you are completely justified and free. Dikaio. And the fourth R, remain. Do we have the fourth R? There it is, remain. Which means you're going to stay in that forgiving flow. Every time those outside voices or every time your own self, you try to pull you back into your past and you try to live there, you might have to pray. God, help me send these things away. Help me send them away because they're not mine to carry. God, help me send the past away. You remain in the constant state of a fear me. You might have to send it away again and again and again as many times as necessary. And if you're saying to yourself right now, man, Ryan, this all sounds like it's hard work. Yes, I would tell you it's hard work. Doing the inner work will be some of the hardest work you do. If it was easy, you would have already done it. Yes, it's hard work. And I'll close with this. There was a survey that was put out not too long ago. It was for church people, religious people. And in this survey, the question was posed, when God sees you, what emotion does God feel? And they gave a whole host of answers in which to choose from. Like, when God sees me, God sees happiness or joy or peace. Do you know what the number one answer was? The overwhelming response by a long shot. When God sees me, God feels disappointment. How did we get there? Is it possible we need a new tape to replay up here? If you're searching for a new tape to play, I would suggest something like this. I'm going to let it come on the screen. There it goes. And I'm convinced that nothing can ever separate us from God's love, neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither our fears for today nor our worries about tomorrow. Nothing can separate us from God's love. Nothing you did or nothing you're going to do in the future. Nothing can ever separate you from God's love. Don't let anyone tell you anything else other than that. Nothing can separate you. If you need something a bit simpler, that was Paul in his letter to the Romans. Here's a very simple line from the Big Book, page 183, the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. This would be worth putting on repeat. We are sure God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. Not a bad tape to put on repeat. Maybe that needs to become your mantra. I am sure God wants me to be happy, joyous, and free. I'm sure God wants me to be happy, joyous, and free. I'm sure God wants me to be happy, joyous, and free. Do y'all know that little girl that Tammy was 6 months pregnant with? Her name is Shiloh. She's today 11 years old. I got sober when Tammy was 9 months pregnant with her, so I was fully present for her birth. Do you know, from the time she could start walking, for about the first 5 years of her life, she would do this thing. She always did this thing. We would go walking around our neighborhood. We have open space trails behind our house. We'd go walking and hiking on the trails, and she always did this thing no matter how far away from home we were. When she was ready, she would come up to me. She'd put her arms up and look up at me, and she'd say, "Here, Poppy." And I knew exactly what it meant. It was her saying to me, "My legs are done. I ain't walking anymore. I'm tired. I can't do it anymore." And it always meant, "You, Poppy, get to carry me home," no matter how far away from home we were. Y'all, when you are exhausted, when you're tired, when your past is trying to pull you back in, when you can't replay the old tapes and when they just keep playing and you can't get the new ones in, when you're that exhausted from your past, maybe the best thing you can do is utter the prayer, "Hear God. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. It's taking everything out of me. I know we're miles from home, but..." And I wonder if God takes great delight and being the one who gets to carry you home, because forgiveness is always about you returning home. Own it, forgive it, you are free. So this song that we're going to hear is a song by Jason Mraz. Some of you know Jason Mraz. It's called "Living in the Moment." Our guest storyteller tonight, Karie Allison, we were meeting this week and she said, "Can we please play this song to set things up?" And I listened to the song and I thought, oh my word, this is like one of those perfect songs for the evening. So I invite you to take a moment and reflect. What are the things in your life you need to own, forgive, so that you can be free? Here's Jason Mraz, "Living in the Moment."
Hi, friends. Welcome back. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Karie, and I'm the Associate Executive Director. And I'd like to remind you guys that we're a community for addicts, loved one of addicts, and spiritual refugees. Often we have people who experience direct addiction firsthand on our living room. We find that the addicts are more willing to talk about their own story a little bit more easily, and sometimes the loved ones are a little bit more challenging to find, usually for two problems. One, the addicts are usually terrified of like, oh my gosh, what are they gonna say about me when I get up there? Are they just gonna bash me? I promise that's not what's about to happen. And then two, a lot of times it takes some time and healing to figure out what is my story to tell and what is the addict's story to tell. And so sometimes that separation takes some time. Fortunately, tonight we have a very amazing woman about to join us. She has walked this journey of recovery as a loved one and has had that healing space and time to be able to tell her own story and not what we call as her qualifier. So if you would, please be kind and welcome my friend Karie Allison up to the stage. Turn it on. Just got it. Hi, Karie.
Hi, Karie.
And we even spell it the same way. Anyhow, I would love to start, if you wouldn't mind, because it was pretty important to you. One of the first things you said is, can I pick the song? So I know the song that we just heard was a really important part of your healing. Can you tell us why you asked Ryan to play that particular song?
I love that song because it tells you to put the past in the past and to just live in the moment. As a recent survivor of cancer, I need to do that, and I've learned to do that. So anyway.
We all need those reminders. We're still in the Great Event series. This is the last week of that series, and I want to kind of rewind to your journey with Free and how you came here. We realized just before the service that both of us were actually bamboozled into coming through the doors of Free. We had no idea what we were getting ourselves into. So could you tell us the story of how you actually came to find Free in the first place?
So first I want to preface this with the gal that invited me is my dear friend now. So I don't want her to be mad at me about bamboozling. But anyway, she invited me to come to Free at the old location to make some sandwiches for the homeless. And she invited me and my husband and my daughter to come. And we all showed up, and they were all done making sandwiches. And Ryan introduced himself, and he was barefoot with tattoos, and we're like, he's the pastor here? And
we don't do shame, Karie.
No, I'm not ashamed of that at all. It's kind of cool. But Tawny kind of did a double take too, like, what is happening? But anyway, we stuck around, and we're here for the long haul.
And you're going for about a year, and this is at the old location. I'm not sure if anyone here in the audience has been at the old location, but about a year into your journey with Free, they did a book study, and that was on Tattoos of the Heart. And, right? It's a good one. If you haven't read it, go read it. And what you had realized on that book study is that you were carrying around 20 years of anger and lack of forgiveness. Can you tell us what that book study helped you uncover in this great event?
Yeah, so in the book there was a line about being the victim and the victimizer, and that God loves you both, that you're both people, and people make mistakes, and you got to move forward from that.
Can you tell us of who that victimizer was and how and why you had to learn to forgive him?
So the victimizer in my case was a gentleman who him and his wife at the time, they were 19 and 21, did an 8-ball and drove up to my dad's house. He was the dad I called Daddy Dave. He adopted me when I was little. So they answered the ad in the paper that he had his expedition for sale. He lived up in Evergreen, and the gal had bought a gun with her tax refund money the day before, and they went up there, and when my dad was signing the papers thinking he was selling his car, the guy shot him in the back, and it went through his liver and his heart, and he didn't make it.
I know that's difficult to share, and I know that's one thing in our community that we learn to have compassion for the addicts who do behavior or engage in behavior that we wouldn't typically, perhaps, well, if we were sober. So being a part of Free, doing this book study of Tattoos on the Heart, what did you do to forgive this man?
So after reading that book, I was compelled to write him a letter, tell him I forgive him. After having a daughter that was an addict, I understood and had compassion for what he did and why he might have done it, although I didn't tell him it was okay, but I did forgive him, and I told him that he's loved.
And so sometimes, thank goodness for your daughter, right? Because her addiction was able to open up a level of forgiveness that you didn't have access to before. And because you loved her unconditionally, you were able to extend that to this gentleman.
Yeah.
And then after that, you were engaged throughout the entire recovery journey was through Al-Anon, correct?
Yes.
And can you tell us about how, so that first event was you were able to give forgiveness to somebody else. Mm-hmm. And this next story, I think, is really beautiful to share about witnessing your part in helping somebody else achieve forgiveness.
So, excuse me, sorry. We were in Al-Anon, and there was quite a few young teens and kids that were coming. And a group of us got together and said, why don't we start an Al-Teen group? And so we had the Al-Teen group right next door to the Al-Anon group, so the parents could come and bring them. And so I did that for like a year to a year and a half, and it kind of ended about COVID time. But I met this boy there that was incredible, and him and his dad had kind of a turbulent relationship, and I can't go into the details because it is anonymous. But he later his mom was a part of this community, and she's sitting up here where I was sitting, and she spoke for Free as well. And during her presentation, they showed a picture of her son with his father. I left one part out. So in Al-Anon, this is before the picture, in Al-Anon, when I was sitting there, the mom of this boy was across from me, and she had said how much her son had changed because of the Al-Teen program, and that he wasn't so angry anymore. And that just touched my heart so much. And then when she was up here speaking and showed a picture of her son with his dad, arm in arm, loving each other, I was completely touched by that.
It's amazing that this community can experience so much darkness, yet so much beauty is at the same time. And thank you for your part in facilitating that forgiveness. We never know the effect that we have, right, of being of service. So thank you. And I want to move to yourself now. Throughout this journey, Ryan was talking about a little bit of that self-forgiveness. And what did that look like for you? And how did you learn to come home to yourself, drop into your heart, and forgive yourself for things that perhaps you were not looking at before?
Yeah, I had to forgive myself for being angry at the guy who killed my dad for over 20 years. That was a lot of pent-up anger. And then, I had to forgive myself for the way I was judgmental. I wasn't compassionate towards addicts whatsoever before I had one. And now I understand the whole disease and that it's very, very powerful and it's hard to stop. So I had to forgive myself for, some of the condescending remarks I made to my daughter before I really understood the disease. And treating her like a child, which unfortunately I still do sometimes because she is my kid. She does call me out on it sometimes, which I guess is good. And, just forgiving myself for can't think of any, just not being understanding, I guess, about this disease. And I have a lot more knowledge and understanding and compassion for addicts now.
And what, to kind of wrap it up, what could you, to the person who's still out there, whether they are withholding the forgiveness of somebody else or whether it's withholding the forgiveness for themselves, could you help give them a little nudge into the forgiveness arena? And what could you advise them to do to start taking some of those first small steps?
Forgiving yourself and forgiving other people really does set you free. It really does. And I feel like you got to let the past go. You got to not worry about the future. And we're going back to the song and just live in the moment.
And even if you have to listen to the song on repeat.
And I do.
And I do want to say that Karie is regularly here. She has also said before the first service that she is interested in potentially starting an Alateen meeting here at Free. So if you or anybody that you know is interested or has somebody who might benefit from an Alateen meeting, please come up to either me or Karie. She's around very frequently, most Saturdays. You can also email me, and if there's any interest. But Alateen it's an amazing program, and a lot of us have children who suffer because of our behavior. So, or my behavior, I'll say. I'm not going to talk for every addict, but so I just want to say thank you very, very much. And again, if you guys have any questions, Karie's going to stick around after. But can you guys please give it up for Karie Allison?
Thank you.
Plural Karies. Karie, it was so cool to see. Your daughter was on the Facebook tonight. I was looking at Facebook as you were speaking. Now, I wasn't like scrolling Facebook. I was watching service on Facebook. Anyway, she said, "You got this, mama." That's pretty cool, huh? And if you haven't read Tattoos on the Heart by Gregory Boyle, it's a must read. You should go read it today. Get it. I think you'll highly enjoy it. Highly recommend it. All right, Karie, you've got 2 mics. Are you giving a mic to someone? You're going to give a mic, okay, away. Because if it's your first time here, the way we close a Saturday night is very similar to how we begin. We begin with celebrations, but we close with what we call heartaches. Maybe you've been carrying around burdens, and you've been trying to do it alone, and somewhere along the way you found out that you suck at doing it alone, and it's why you have community. It's why we have a God who hears the cries of the people. So we take 3 minutes for this. If you're online, You can drop your heartaches in the YouTube comments or Facebook comments. We'll join with you there. Here, just raise up your hand, and if you need prayer, encouragement, some lifting up, that's what this time is for. So let's take 3 minutes.
My name is Simon. I've had 3 people in my circle relapse in this last week, and 2 of them reached out to me today for help and support, and the 3rd one I have not heard from yet, so I just pray that she comes back into the circle.
Yeah. Prayers for her and all those who are struggling. Thank you, Simon, for lifting them up.
I have a close friend back home named Stephanie Troutman, and her son unexpectedly passed away after his 18th birthday. And yeah, this is the first time I've ever experienced this happening in my circle, in my community, and I know it's the first time for her. And I think that she could just use like as many prayers as possible right now because she's really struggling.
Absolutely. Prayers for her. Thank you, Teray.
Hi, my name is Heather. I'm asking for prayers for a friend of mine who I found out today that she had relapsed a couple days ago. I'm not sure where she's at, so prayers for her that she comes back. Thank you.
Yeah, prayers for your friend that she can return home.
Come on.
My name is Stefan. I have a friend who's losing his identity to mental illness and is really struggling with it. I had to see him yesterday, and it's very upsetting to see where he's come, and I hope he gets the help he needs.
Yeah. Prayers for your friend, man. Thank you for lifting them up. Yes. Prayers for them.
Hi, my name is Joshua. My aunt passed away yesterday of 75 years. My family's pretty upset over it. I'd like to send prayers out to her. And also to everybody in my program. We lost a few members today in the last week, and I'd like to pray for them and everybody else that's still in our program.
Yeah. Prayers for you and the family, Joshua. Yeah. And I hope you all here in this community, just on a weekly basis, that it's a real thing. We lose people to this disease, and that's why we got to stay connected.
Hello, my name's Josiah, and I relapsed 3 days ago, but I came back to my program. Pray that I can get this right this time.
Yeah. Glad you're here, man. Yeah, we celebrate that here. We don't do shame. Glad you're here.
Hi, my name is Nick. My son and my daughter both struggle really, really bad with fentanyl and crack cocaine addiction. And their mother's the one teaching them this, and I just pray for my family to, find their way, and I need everybody else's prayers in that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Prayers for them and you, my friend.
Hi, my name is Karie. I would like to, there are some very special people that are watching online tonight who, although they are sober, cross addictions are causing lots of chaos in their life. And sometimes when we get sober, it doesn't really always get easier. So sometimes those primary addictions kick up. So for all those out there still suffering tonight.
Yeah. Thank you, Karie. Eric, you want to join me up here, dude? Did we have one in the back? Let's do one more, then we'll join our online crew.
My name's Mac, and my uncle just went into hospice a couple days ago, so just wanted to send some prayers out for him.
All right, Mac, prayers for you and the family and your uncle. Prayers for y'all. Eric, thank you for joining me up here.
No worries.
Dude, I'd like that hat.
Giddy up.
All right, dude, you want to take the first one?
Sure.
Online?
Joel and Jean is asking prayers for my son ran away, he's suicidal, I'm heartbroken because of this.
Jolyn or Jolyn, prayers for you. Prayers for your son, lifting him up, and I believe that was our only one tonight. So, Eric, you got an easy job, but thank you for being up here with me and joining me up here. Prayers for everyone who is carrying a burden, carrying the heartache. Prayers for you. Hey, someone, and it's right at 8 o'clock, so I'm going to make this quick. Someone, when I went out right after the message, I was walking to my office, and is Tisha in here? Tisha said, hey, will you share the story of the wagon? It's been a minute. And I said, absolutely. Let me share the story of the wagon really quickly. A few years ago when I was in LA, because y'all do know the wagon here is a central image. You'll see a custom-built wagon out in the foyer area. Got a wagon tattooed on my neck. When we started Free the very first week, we had a wagon that we got for the backyard. A few years ago when I was in LA taking a tour of the LA Rescue Mission, the executive director brought us up to the top floor, and they had all their pictures, their memorabilia, their history, and there was a large black and white photo of a wagon. And I said, dude, what's the story with this wagon? And he said, you don't know about the wagon? And I said, no, but apparently I need to know. He said, let me tell you about the wagon. And he said, that's how this place got started. In the late 1800s, this wagon would go out into the roughest parts of LA, and they would distribute food and clothing and Bibles and other things. And then at the end of the night, they would welcome anyone who wanted to get on the wagon and go to a place of recovery to jump on. Now, what happens when you get a bunch of drunks on a wagon? Some of them fall off. And he went on to tell me when the drunk ones would fall off, they would stop the wagon. And then the sober ones would jump off the wagon and help them back on because they knew where they were headed. And I thought, man, yeah. That is community, that's church, that's spiritual community at its best. And if we ever start something new, a wagon's going to be the central image. That's why we go with the wagon. We say, be the wagon here. We get to be the wagon. Speaking of being the wagon, if you call this place home or your tribe or your people, if this is your place, if you've been impacted by the mission of breaking the silence of addiction, we do invite your generous giving. It's what keeps us afloat here. There's a few different ways to give. You can download the app Free Recovery Community. All of our content's on there. There's a giving button. You can give weekly, monthly, or just one time. We're grateful for it all. You can do the exact same thing on the website, freerecoverycommunity.com, or there's the giving kiosks, one beside Bobby here at these doors, one just outside these doors, and as always, like since a few months ago, we have the dip jar just outside these doors. It's set at $20. You can't give more, you can't give less. You just take your credit card and you dip it in, you dip it out, it lights up, you get to feel good about it. And seriously, let me say this, zero manipulation here, just gratitude that your giving is what we're funded by, and it truly makes a big difference here. And I know some of you made that a spiritual practice in your life. You make it a sacrificial practice in your life, and we're really grateful for it. So thank you for being a part of that. Whoo! All right, y'all. Shall we go out with a prayer? I would invite you to just open the hands. Nothing magical with open hands, just a simple sign, symbol of openness. You're open to Spirit moving. Maybe you're open to a new tape playing, reminding you who you are, worthy of the good, worthy of love, worthy of grace. And just take a big, deep breath. God is as close as you're breathing. If you don't know the Lord's Prayer, it's on your screen. And it goes like this. We'll pray together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen. Grace and peace. We'll see you all next time.